She was mopping the 47th floor when she heard the crash. 4 wild children and one desperate man who'd conquered empires but couldn't survive bedtime. Dante Morty didn't flinch when men begged for their lives. He'd built an empire from blood and silence, turned fear into currency, and shaped the city's underworld with nothing but his will and a carefully cultivated reputation for ruthlessness. But at 3:47 a.m., sitting in his leather chair with his tie loosened and his temple throbbing, he was flinching. "She quit," his assistant Victor said through the phone, his voice tight with exhaustion. "That's the 8th one in 4 months, boss." Dante closed his eyes. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of his private office, the city sprawled below him like a kingdom of lights, a kingdom he controlled with whispered orders and strategic violence. But 30 floors above, in his penthouse, chaos reigned in a form he couldn't negotiate with, couldn't threaten, couldn't. Silence. 4-year-old quadruplets. What happened this time? Dante asked, though he already knew. The pattern was always the same. Luca bit her. Sophia locked herself in the bathroom and flooded it. The twins, Victor hesitated. They painted the hallway with spaghetti sauce. Dante's jaw tightened. "I'll handle it." "With respect, sir, you haven't been able to handle it for a year." The truth landed like a blade between his ribs. He was Dante Morty. Men crossed streets to avoid him. Business empires crumbled at his word, but his own children were strangers. Wild, angry little strangers who screamed when he entered rooms and treated every caregiver like an enemy combatant. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket with mechanical precision. Control, that's what he needed, more control. He didn't see the woman mopping near the elevator as he stepped inside. 30 floors below, Claire Dawson wrung out her mop for the 100th time that night, her lower back aching with a pain she'd stopped noticing years ago. The building's after-hours silence was her companion, no judgmental stares, no whispers about the woman who cleaned toilets at 30 years old. Her cleaning cart rattled as she pushed it toward the executive suites, a photo of her daughter Lily taped inside next to her supplies, 6 years old with gap-toothed smile and wild curls, Claire's entire universe in 4x6 inches. She'd left Lily with Mrs. Chen downstairs 3 hours ago. The older woman never charged much, thank God, but guilt still gnawed at Claire's insides. What kind of mother dragged her kid to an office building at midnight because she couldn't afford childcare? The kind who's doing her best, she reminded herself, scrubbing at a coffee stain some executive had left near the marble reception desk. The kind who doesn't give up. Claire had learned not to give up 5 years ago when Lily's father, Derek, had looked at their newborn daughter and said, "I can't do this. This isn't what I signed up for." He'd left before sunrise, and Claire hadn't heard from him since. She'd also learned she was invisible. Not in a metaphorical sense, actually invisible. People looked through her, around her, never at her. She was the woman who made messes disappear, who existed in the margins of other people's important lives. That invisibility felt like safety most days. The elevator dinged. Claire glanced up reflexively and froze. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair graying at the temples and a face carved from stone and shadows. His suit probably cost more than her annual rent, but it was his eyes that stopped her breath, dark, haunted, furious. Their gazes met for half a heartbeat. Then he was past her, his expensive shoes clicking against marble, leaving only the scent of cedar and something darker, cigar smoke, maybe, or the cologne of a man who owned things, controlled things. Claire exhaled and returned to her mop. She didn't know that man's world and hers were about to collide in ways neither could imagine. She didn't know that in 3 days, she'd be standing in his penthouse holding his screaming children while he watched her like she was performing a miracle. She didn't know that the invisible woman was about to be seen. All she knew was that her shift ended in 2 hours, Lily needed new shoes, and the water in her bucket was getting cold. She kept mopping. The city hummed below. Above, in a penthouse palace, 4 children cried themselves to sleep in their separate rooms while their father stood in the doorway of each, silent and helpless, wondering how to love what you don't understand. 2 broken worlds spinning in their separate orbits. For now. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life, like the world just passes you by? What changed that for you, or are you still waiting? Share your story below. Claire's supervisor had added the penthouse level to her rotation. Without warning, Mr. Morty requested extra cleaning, he'd said with a shrug, some kind of incident. She wheeled her cart out of the service elevator at 1:30 a.m., expecting the usual. Silent hallways, darkened rooms, the sterile perfection of wealth undisturbed. Instead, she heard crying. Not the soft whimper of a single child, but a chorus, 4 distinct voices layered in panic and rage, coming from behind the massive double doors at the end of the hall. Claire hesitated, her hand hovering over her cart. Not your business. Do your job and leave. Then she heard the crash. Her feet moved before her brain caught up. She tried the door, unlocked, and pushed inside. The penthouse was a study in contrasts, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, modern furniture that looked like art installations, and in the center of all that cold perfection, chaos. 4 small children, couldn't be more than 4 years old, stood in what looked like a demolished playroom. Toys were scattered like shrapnel. A lamp lay shattered on the marble floor. One wall had crayon marks streaking across expensive wallpaper in violent slashes of red and black. But what stopped Claire's heart was their faces. Not anger, terrors. The biggest boy, dark curls and his father's jawline already emerging, held a toy truck like a weapon. A smaller boy with the same features crouched behind him, tears streaming down his cheeks. 2 girls completed the set, one with wild hair standing defiantly near an overturned chair, the other, the smallest, curled in the corner with her thumb in her mouth, shaking. "Where is she?" the big boy demanded, his voice cracking. "Where did she go?" Claire's professional training screamed at her to back away, call security, not get involved. But her mother's heart, the one that knew what it looked like when children were drowning, overpowered everything else. She stepped into the room and slowly lowered herself to the floor, crossing her legs and setting. Her hands in her lap. The children stared. "She left," Claire said softly, answering the boy's question with the truth that adults usually avoided. "The nanny left, didn't she?" The big boy's face crumpled. "They always leave." "I know, baby, I know they do." Claire's voice was steady, calm, the same tone she used when Lily woke from nightmares. "But I'm here right now, and I'm not scared of messes or noise or big feelings." "You're the cleaning lady," the defiant girl said, suspicion sharp in her voice. "You're supposed to clean." "I am," Claire agreed, "but you know what I've learned. Sometimes the mess isn't the problem. Sometimes the mess is trying to tell you something important." The smallest girl in the corner lifted her head slightly, her thumb still in her mouth. Claire began humming. It wasn't planned, just the lullaby she'd sung to Lily every night since birth, a melody her own mother had sung to her. Soft, repetitive, safe. The room seemed to exhale. Minutes passed. Claire didn't move, didn't demand anything. just hummed and breathed and existed in their broken space without trying to fix it. The smaller boy moved first, shuffling toward her with hesitant steps. He stopped just out of reach, studying her face like he was looking for lies. "What's your name?" Claire asked gently. "Nico," he whispered. "I'm Claire. It's nice to meet you, Nico." "You won't leave." The question shattered something in Claire's chest. "Not until you're safe, sweetheart, I promise." One by one, they came closer. The big boy, Luca, she learned, sat down 3 feet away, still suspicious but exhausted. The defiant girl, Isabella, plopped down with dramatic flair. And finally, the smallest, Sophia, crawled into Claire's lap like she'd been waiting her whole life for permission. Claire wrapped her arms around the tiny girl and kept humming. "Are you hungry?" she asked after a while. 4 heads nodded. She stood carefully, Sophia still clinging to her, and made her way to the massive chef's kitchen. The refrigerator was full of expensive, untouched food. She found bread, peanut butter, honey, and set to work making sandwiches while the children watched from the doorway like she was performing magic. They ate sitting on the kitchen floor. Claire couldn't bear to put them at that long, formal dining table that screamed loneliness. Sophia stayed in her lap. Nico leaned against her shoulder. Even Luca and Isabella edged closer, drawn by something they couldn't name but desperately needed. "Tell us a story," Isabella demanded through a mouthful of sandwich. So Claire did. She told them about a little girl named Lily who was brave even when she was scared, who loved animals and dreamed of having brothers and sisters to play with. She told them about dragons that were actually lonely and just needed friends, about castles built from blanket forts, about magic that lived in ordinary moments. She didn't hear the elevator, didn't hear the footsteps in the hallway. Didn't know Dante Morty had arrived home expecting devastation and was instead standing frozen in his kitchen doorway, staring at a scene he didn't recognize. His 4 children, the wild, unreachable children who screamed at his presence, were peaceful, calm, draped across a woman in a cleaning uniform like she was the only solid thing in their tilting world. Sophia's head rested on the woman's chest, her breathing deep and even. Nico's hand gripped the woman's sleeve. Even Luca, his eldest and most hostile, sat close enough that their knees touched. And the woman, the janitor he'd passed in the hallway days ago, without truly seeing, was singing softly, her voice turning his cold kitchen into something that felt dangerously close to home. Claire looked up and saw him. Their eyes met, and this time neither looked away. She saw the shock on his face, the confusion, and beneath it, something raw and aching, loneliness, the same loneliness she saw in the mirror every morning. Dante saw a woman who'd done what 8 professionals couldn't, made his children feel safe. "Mr. Morty," Claire said quietly, careful not to disturb Sophia. "I'm sorry, I heard them crying and I just—" "Don't apologize." His voice was rough, unfamiliar to his own ears. "I should be. How did you?" He couldn't finish the question because he didn't understand the answer. He'd hired specialists, therapists, nannies with decades of experience. He'd offered outrageous money, benefits, bonuses. And this woman in a janitor's uniform had walked in and performed a miracle with nothing but a lullaby and peanut butter sandwiches. "They just needed someone to stay," Claire said simply, "to not run when things got hard." The words hit him like an accusation, because wasn't that what he did? Run into work, into deals, into the parts of his empire where problems had solutions and control was possible. "What's your name?" he asked. Claire Dawson." "Claire," he tested. The syllables feeling strange in his mouth, too soft for the sharp edges of his world. I thank you. She nodded, then carefully began extracting herself from the children. Sophia whimpered in her sleep, and Claire hesitated, her face conflicted. I should go. My daughter is downstairs with a neighbor, and my shift. You have a daughter? Yes, Lily, she's 6. Dante looked at his children, now stirring awake as Claire tried to stand. Luca's face was already hardening, preparing for another abandonment. He made a decision that terrified him more than any business deal ever had. Stay, he said, just until they're asleep in their beds, please. Claire searched his face, and Dante had the unsettling feeling she was seeing things he'd spent decades hiding. Finally, she nodded. Together, this unlikely pair who existed in different universes, they got 4 children into pajamas, into beds, through protests and tears and requests for water and bathroom trips and one more. The story. Dante watched from doorways as Claire tucked in each child with a tenderness that made his chest ache. She knew which one needed the nightlight brighter, Sophia, which one needed his favorite stuffed animal positioned just right, Nico, which one needed her to sit on the edge of the bed for exactly 5 minutes, Isabella, and which one needed her to promise she'd be there in the morning, even though they both knew it was a lie, Luca. When the last child was finally asleep, Claire and Dante stood in the hallway, the silence between them loaded with questions neither knew how to ask. They've never, Dante's voice cracked. He cleared his throat. They've never been that calm, not since their mother. He stopped, unable to finish. I know, Claire said softly. They told me that people always leave. And you stayed. For tonight, she looked down at her hands, at the cleaning uniform that suddenly felt like a costume. But I should go now. This isn't. I'm not supposed to be here. Dante's hand moved before his brain authorized it, catching her wrist gently. What if you were? Claire's eyes snapped to his. What? Supposed to be here. What if? He released her, stepping back, his business mind taking over even as his heart raced with dangerous hope. I'm offering you a job. 1 week. Help me with them. I'll pay you. Mr. Morty. $50,000. The number hung in the air between them like a grenade. Claire's face went pale. That's more than I make in 2 years. Then say yes. I don't know anything about being a nanny. I'm a janitor with a 6-year-old and a 1-bedroom apartment and you did in 2 hours what trained professionals couldn't do in months. Dante's voice was intensity without volume, desperation without begging. Please, 1 week. If it doesn't work, you walk away 50,000 richer. If it does. He looked toward his children's rooms. If it does, maybe we both get something we need. Claire's mind raced. $50,000. Lily's medical bills from last year when she'd had pneumonia finally paid off. New shoes, new clothes, maybe even a better apartment, somewhere with a bedroom for her daughter, somewhere without mold in the bathroom. But this man was dangerous, not because of what he did for a living, though the rumors about Dante Morty were whispered even by janitors, but because of what she'd felt in that kitchen. A pull, a recognition. 2 lonely people reaching across an impossible distance. 1 week, she heard herself say, but I bring my daughter. She doesn't leave my sight. Done. They shook hands, his grip warm and firm, and sending electricity up her arm that she absolutely could not afford to feel. As Claire rode the elevator down to collect Lily, her hands trembling, she didn't let herself think about what she'd just agreed to. And as Dante stood in his penthouse, looking at his peacefully sleeping children for the first time in A year, he didn't let himself think about why a woman in a janitor's uniform had made him feel more vulnerable than any enemy ever had. Some distances once crossed can never be walked back. They'd both just stepped over the line. When was the last time someone truly saw you? Not your job title, not your bank account, just you. How did it change you? Drop your thoughts below. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her lumpy mattress in her one-bedroom apartment, staring at the pre-dawn darkness outside her window, while Lily slept peacefully in the bed they shared. In 6 hours, she was supposed to return to that penthouse, with her daughter, to live in a world that wasn't hers, with a man who commanded empires and 4 children who'd already crawled into her heart. This is temporary, she reminded herself. 1 week, take the money, don't get attached. But she was already attached. She'd felt it the moment Sophia had curled into her lap. The way Nico's small hand had gripped her sleeve like an anchor. They were starving for something money couldn't buy, and Claire, who had nothing, had exactly what they needed. That terrified her. Because what happened when the week ended, when she went back to mopping floors and they went back to, what? Another nanny who'd eventually quit, another cycle of abandonment. Not your problem, she thought fiercely. You're not their mother, you're just temporary help. But this thought felt like a lie. 30 blocks north, Dante stood in his home office nursing his 3rd espresso, watching the sun bleed into the skyline. He hadn't slept either. I'd made a mistake. Offering that woman, Claire, $50,000 for a week wasn't desperate, it was insane. She had no credentials, no background check, no references. For all he knew, she could be working for his enemies, could be planting cameras, gathering intelligence. Except he'd seen her face when Sophia had fallen asleep in her arms. He'd heard the lullaby she'd hummed, seen the gentle way she'd wiped peanut butter from Nico's cheek. No one faked that kind of tenderness, not that well. Still, bringing her into his home, into his children's lives, it violated every rule he'd built his empire on. Don't trust easily, don't show weakness, don't let anyone close enough to hurt what's yours. His phone buzzed. Victor. Boss, I heard you hired the janitor. His lieutenant's voice was carefully neutral, which meant he thought Dante had lost his mind. Should I run a background check? Already done, Dante had called in favors at 4 a.m. Claire Dawson, 29, single mother, no criminal record, works 3 jobs, perfect credit despite poverty, which means she pays her debts. Ex-boyfriend walked out when their daughter was born. She's been invisible her whole life. And you're making her visible, in your home, with your children. Your point. My point is that you don't do this. You don't bring people into your private life, especially not, Victor paused, someone from a completely different world. What happens when the week ends and she's seen too much? When she knows where you live, knows your routines, knows your children's schedules. The unspoken threat hung between them. She becomes a liability. She won't talk, Dante said, but even he heard the uncertainty in his voice. How do you know? Because when their eyes had met in the kitchen, he'd recognized something in her. Another person carrying too much weight, another soul that had learned to survive by staying small, staying quiet, staying invisible. People like that didn't betray confidences, they hoarded them like treasures. But Victor was right, letting her in was dangerous. 1 week, Dante said firmly, then she leaves with enough money to disappear comfortably, problem solved. And the kids, when they get attached. Dante's jaw tightened. He had no answer for that. His children had already lost one mother. Adding another temporary figure to abandon them felt like cruelty. But what choice did he have? He couldn't control them, couldn't reach them. At least Claire could give them one peaceful week before the chaos resumed. 1 week, he told himself, then everything goes back to normal. The thought should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like a sentence. At 8 a.m., Claire stood in the penthouse's marble foyer with Lily's hand clutched in hers, both of them holding battered suitcases that suddenly felt like props in the wrong movie. Dante emerged from his office in a different suit, charcoal today, perfectly tailored, and stopped when he saw Lily. The little girl with wild curls and bright eyes stared back at him without fear, which seemed to unsettle him more than if she'd cried. "You must be Lily," he said, his voice softer than Claire had heard it. "Are you the man with the 4 kids?" Lily asked bluntly. "I am. Mommy says we're going to help you for a little while. She says unite us." Claire's cheeks flushed. "Lily, that's not exactly—" "I do need you," Dante interrupted, and his eyes met Claire's with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Both of you." Before Claire could respond, a stampede of small feet announced the Quadruplets. They rounded the corner and froze at the sight of Claire. Then chaos, beautiful, loud, enthusiastic chaos. "You came back," Sophia shrieked, launching herself at Claire's legs. Nico was right behind her, followed by Isabella. Even Luca approached, trying to look indifferent but betrayed by the relief flooding his face. "I told you I would," Claire said, crouching down to their level, Lily still holding her hand. "And I brought someone special. This is my daughter, Lily." 5 children studied each other with the wariness of creatures, deciding if they were friends or rivals. Then Lily grinned. "Want to see my stuffed dragon? His name is Mr. Pickles and he breathes imaginary fire." Just like that, the ice broke. The children swarmed Lily, leading her toward the playroom in a chattering parade, leaving Claire and Dante alone in the foyer. "Mr. Pickles?" Dante asked, one eyebrow raised. She was 3 when she named him. Don't judge. But Claire was smiling, and for a moment the tension between them eased. Then Dante's phone rang. He glanced at it, and his face hardened back into the mask she was beginning to recognize, the armor he wore against the world. "I have to take this. Victor will show you to your room. The children's routine is—" He paused. "Actually, there is no routine. That's the problem. Do whatever you think is right. I'll be in my office." He turned and walked away before she could respond, the phone already at his ear, his voice dropping into cold command. "Tell Castellano, if he doesn't have my money by noon, he won't have his kneecaps by evening." Claire shivered. The man who just gently greeted her daughter had vanished, replaced by the Mafia boss who'd built an empire on fear. She picked up her suitcase and followed Victor, a stern man with kind eyes, down a hallway toward the guest wing, trying not to think about the fact that she was moving into the home of a man who threatened to break kneecaps before breakfast. 1 week, she reminded herself, just 1 week. But as she unpacked Lily's stuffed animals in a bedroom larger than their entire apartment, as she heard the children's laughter echoing from the playroom for the first time in this cold penthouse, she felt the lie settling deeper into her bones. 1 week would never be enough. And that was the most dangerous thought of all. By dinner time, Claire had made 3 discoveries. First, Dante's kitchen was stocked like a restaurant but never used. The children had been eating catered meals that they hated, served by staff who cleaned up and left. Second, the penthouse had every toy imaginable but no warmth. It was a mausoleum of wealth, pretending to be a home. Third, Dante was terrified of his own children. She saw it in the way he hovered in doorways but never entered, the way he'd started to reach for Sophia when she cried, then pulled back like he might break her, the way he watched Claire interact with them like she was speaking a language he'd never learned. "You're avoiding them," Claire said that evening after the children were in bed. She'd found Dante in his office, paperwork spread across his massive desk, a glass of whiskey catching the lamplight. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face. "Excuse me." "Your children, you're hiding from them." "I'm working," his voice was ice. "You're scared." The air between them crackled with tension. Dante stood slowly, his height and presence suddenly overwhelming in the enclosed space. He was a man used to intimidation, to dominance. Claire didn't flinch. "You don't know anything about me," he said quietly, dangerously. "As I know. You love them. I see it in how you look at them when you think no one's watching. But I also see that you don't know how to reach them, and instead of trying and failing, you just disappear." Their mother disappeared, Dante said, and pain cracked through his cold facade. She looked at them one morning and decided she was done, walked out like they were a mistake she was correcting. "So forgive me if I don't know how to," he stopped, jaw working. "I'm not built for this, for softness, for whatever it is you do that makes them calm." "You think I was built for this?" Claire's voice rose. "I'm 29, Mr. Morty. I work 3 jobs. I share a bed with my 6-year-old because I can't afford anything bigger. My daughter's father took one look at her in the hospital and decided we weren't worth the inconvenience. So no, I wasn't built for this either, but I show up anyway. That's the difference." Silence crashed between them. "Don't hide from them," Claire said, softer now. "They need you, not your money, not this penthouse. You. What if I fail them?" "Then you fail and you try again." She turned toward the door, then paused. "You can't break them worse than they're already broken, Mr. Morty, but you can absolutely hurt them by staying absent." She left him alone in his office with those words echoing off the walls. Dante stared at the closed door for a long time, his whiskey forgotten, feeling something he hadn't allowed himself in years. Hope, painful, dangerous hope that maybe, he wasn't beyond saving. And neither were his children. But letting this woman teach him how to be soft, how to be present, how to be a father, that required a kind of vulnerability more terrifying than any enemy he'd ever faced. Outside his office, Claire leaned against the wall, her heart pounding. She'd just challenged a Mafia boss in his own home, criticized him, pushed him. And he'd let her. That scared her more than anything else. Because it meant he was listening, watching, letting her in. And once she was in, once she saw all the broken pieces both of them were hiding, leaving would destroy more than just the children. It would destroy her too. The next morning, Claire woke to find Dante sitting at the kitchen island at 6 a.m., staring at a cup of coffee like it contained answers to questions he was afraid to ask. "I thought about what you said last night," he began without preamble. "Teach me. I'll clear my schedule for the week. Just show me how to reach them." Claire poured herself coffee, studying him. The request had clearly cost him something. "Okay, but you have to do what I say, even when it feels uncomfortable." "I'm used to giving orders, not taking them." "Then this will be good practice." She slid a cup across to him. Rule 1, get on their level. Literally, knees on the floor, eye contact. Rule 2, show up consistently, even when you fail. Rule 3, let them see you're human, not just the boss. Before Dante could respond, 5 children thundered into the kitchen, Lily leading the charge. Mommy, can we make pancakes? Claire glanced at Dante, raising an eyebrow. His pristine kitchen had never seen this kind of chaos. He took a breath. Pancakes sound good. 20 minutes later, Dante Morty, man who'd ordered executions with a phone call, stood with flour on his suit pants, watching his kitchen transform into a war zone. Sophia cracked eggs everywhere. Nico spilled milk. Isabella got batter in her hair. The chaos was overwhelming, loud, sticky, and absolutely nothing like Dante's controlled existence. "Mr. Morty," Claire called, "want to flip the first one." Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, but he thought about Claire's words, "Show up, even when you fail." He took the spatula. The first pancake stuck and tore apart. The children giggled. "Try again, Mr. Morty," Lily encouraged. "Mommy says we only really fail when we stop trying." The second pancake flipped. Perfectly, the children cheered like he'd performed magic. Dante looked at Claire over their heads. She was smiling, flour on her cheek, looking nothing like the polished women he usually encountered, and somehow more beautiful than any of them. Dangerous, his mind whispered. This is dangerous. The day unfolded in small revelations. Claire taught him to sit during conflicts, making Luca and Nico explain their feelings instead of just separating them. "In this family," she said, already claiming them, "we use our words." She dragged everyone to the rooftop terrace for outside time. Within minutes, the children were using Dante as playground equipment, climbing over him while he sat on a blanket, laughing genuinely for the first time in years. Claire watched from the railing with Lily, her heart doing something complicated. This was what she'd wanted, for him to connect with his children, but watching him transform from the cold boss into a father discovering his kids, it was breaking down her resolve to keep emotional distance. That evening, Claire taught him the bedtime routine. "Bath time is sacred," she explained. "It's when they decompress. You can learn a lot by listening." She supervised the chaos, Sophia trying to drink bubbles, Nico splashing, Luca stealing Isabella's toy boat. Then she called Dante over. "Sophia wants to show you her mermaid swim." The little girl looked up at him, suddenly shy. "Show Daddy," Claire encouraged gently. Daddy, the word landed like a punch. Their mother had insisted on father, formal, distant. Sophia dunked underwater and surfaced with a huge smile. "Did you see Daddy?" "That was amazing," Dante said, his throat tight. "You're a very good mermaid." The other children competed for his attention then, and Dante found himself kneeling beside the tub, completely absorbed in their world. Claire stepped back, giving them space, but her heart was betraying her. She was starting to really like him. Later, after the children were asleep, Dante found Claire on the terrace, staring at the city lights. "Thank you," he said simply, "for showing me how to be present with them." "They love you," Claire replied. "They just needed to know you wouldn't disappear." They stood in comfortable silence, and Claire felt the moment shifting, from professional to something neither had permission to feel. "Can I ask you something?" Dante said quietly. "Why did you really say yes? It's not just the money." Claire considered lying. It would be safer, but the darkness and his honesty pulled truth from her. "Because when I looked at your children, I saw Lily, wondering if she was worth staying for, and I saw myself, trying to be enough when the world keeps telling me I'm not." Dante turned to face her fully, close enough that she could smell cedar and soap. "You're wrong about that. You walked into chaos and made it calm. You're more than enough, Claire. You're extraordinary." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning beyond the arrangement. Claire's breath caught. You're wrong about yourself, too. I watched you today, the way you looked at Sophia, the way you tried again with the pancakes. You're not as hard as you think, you're just scared. It was the first time she'd used his first name. I'm scared of a lot of things, he admitted, but right now, the thing I'm most scared of is what happens when this week ends and you leave. Don't, Claire stepped back, the spell breaking. Don't make this complicated. It's already complicated. No, it's simple. I'm helping with your children. You're paying me. In 5 days, I go back to my life and you go back to yours. What if I don't want that deal anymore? Then you're not thinking clearly. Her voice was firm, but her hands shook. I'm nobody, Dante. I clean floors. I'm from a world that doesn't touch yours except when I'm scrubbing your buildings at night. You think I care about any of that? I think you should. She moved toward the door. This has been a nice fantasy, playing house, but it ends. It has to end. She fled to her room and pressed her back against the door, heart hammering. Because the truth was worse than her words suggested. She was already dreading the ending, already mourning the loss of something she'd only held for a single day. That meant she was in far deeper than was safe. Dante stood alone under the stars, realizing that Claire had walked through his walls with nothing but a lullaby, and now he couldn't imagine going back to the fortress he'd built. 5 more days, he thought, 5 more days to figure out how to make her stay. Because losing her would hurt more than any wound he'd ever taken. And he was beginning to suspect she knew it too. The next morning brought an unexpected visitor. Claire was helping the children with breakfast when the elevator chimed. A woman stepped out, mid-50s, elegant in the way only old money could achieve, her eyes scanning the penthouse with proprietorial familiarity. Dante, she called, not bothering with pleasantries. We need to discuss this situation. Dante emerged from his office, his jaw tightening. Mother, I didn't realize you were coming. Clearly, her gaze landed on Claire, then the children eating pancakes at the counter, then Lily coloring beside them. Is this the help Victor mentioned, the janitor you've installed in your home? The word janitor was delivered like an insult. Claire felt her face burn, but she kept her voice steady. Kids, why don't you take your breakfast to the playroom? I'll be right there. Once the children were gone, Dante's mother, Victoria, turned her full attention to Claire. I don't know what arrangement you've made with my son, but these children need professional care, not charity projects. That's enough, Dante said, his voice cold. Is it? Do you know anything about this woman, her background, her intentions? I know she's done more for my children in 2 days than anyone else has in a year. Victoria's expression hardened. Because you've forgotten how to be a father. You're too much like your own father was, cold, distant, building walls instead of relationships. She turned to Claire. He will hurt you, dear. It's what the Morty men do. They destroy the people who love them. Mother, leave now. But Victoria wasn't finished. She pulled an envelope from her purse and placed it on the counter. This is what I came to give you. Perhaps it will remind you why you can't afford emotional entanglements. She left as abruptly as she'd arrived. Dante stared at the envelope like it might explode. Claire watched the color drain from his face as he opened it. What is it? She asked softly. Pictures from the night my children's mother left. His voice was hollow. Private investigator reports. She didn't just walk away. She'd been planning it for months, had another man. Another life waiting. The children were. He stopped, his hands trembling. They were collateral damage in her escape. Claire moved closer, carefully. Dante. My mother was right about one thing. I am like my father. He taught me love was weakness, vulnerability was failure. When I met Isabella and the children's mother, I thought I could be different. I opened up, let her see everything. He laughed bitterly. She used it all against me. Every vulnerability became ammunition when she wanted to leave. So you built walls. So I built walls, he confirmed, and my children paid the price. They lost their mother and got a father who was too scared to let them close. Claire reached out, her hand covering his. You're not your father, and I'm not their mother. You're learning, Dante, that's what matters. He looked at their joined hands, then at her face. What if I fail them again? Then you try again. That's what love is, showing up even when it's hard. Is that what? This is, his voice dropped, love. The question hung between them, dangerous and honest. Before Claire could answer, Sophia's scream pierced the air. They ran to the playroom to find Luca and Sophia in tears, the little girl clutching her arm. A toy box had fallen, catching her wrist. It hurts, Daddy, Sophia sobbed. It hurts. Dante froze, panic flooding his face, but Claire was already there, gently examining the wrist, bruised but not broken. You're okay, sweetheart, just a bump. Let's get some ice. As they moved to the kitchen, Luca hung back, his face crumpling. I didn't mean to, he whispered. I pushed the box and it fell and… Hey, Claire knelt beside him while Dante handled Sophia. Accidents happen, it's okay. No, it's not, Luca's voice broke. Nothing's okay. Mommy left because we were bad, and now Sophia's hurt because I'm bad and… Stop, Claire gripped his shoulders gently. Listen to me, Luca. Your mother didn't leave because you were bad. Adults leave because they're broken, not because children are. How do you know? Because my daughter's father left us, and for years I thought it was my fault, that I wasn't pretty enough, smart enough, good enough. But you know what I finally learned? His leaving said everything about him and nothing about me. She wiped his tears. Your mother's leaving says everything about her brokenness and nothing about your worth. Do you understand? Luca threw his arms around her neck and sobbed. Real, deep, gutting sobs that had been trapped inside him for a year. Dante watched from across the room, holding Sophia with ice on her wrist, and felt something fundamental shift inside him. Claire wasn't just caring for his children. She was healing them, seeing their wounds and speaking truth into the lies they'd believed. And in that moment, he realized Victoria was wrong. The Morty men didn't always destroy the people who loved them. Sometimes, if they were very lucky, the right person came along and taught them how to love without destroying. That night, after the children were finally settled, Luca sleeping peacefully for the first time without nightmares, Claire found Dante in his office. Thank you, he said, for what you said to Luca about his mother leaving. It was true. I know, but I've never been able to say it to them. I didn't want to speak badly about her, but my silence made them think, he trailed off. That they were the reason, Claire finished. Children always blame themselves. It's their way of trying to make sense of abandonment. Dante studied her. Your daughter's father. Does Lily blame herself? She used to ask if Daddy left because she cried too much as a baby. I told her the same thing I told Luca today. Claire's voice was quiet, that his leaving was about his weakness, not her worth. Do you believe that about yourself? Claire hesitated. I'm learning too. Dante stood, moving around his desk to stand before her. Your ex-boyfriend was a fool. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I'm not strong, I'm just still standing. That's what strength is, Claire, still standing when everything tries to knock you down. He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You saved my children. You're saving me. How can you not see how extraordinary that is? Dante, we can't. I know different worlds, temporary arrangement. You've said it all. His hand lingered near her face. But what if we stopped pretending this is just about the children? What if we admitted this is about us too? Claire's heart thundered. And then what? You're a mafia boss, Dante. I'm a single mother who cleans buildings. This doesn't work outside this penthouse, outside this week. What if I don't care? You should care. Your world is dangerous, my daughter. Would be protected. Both of you would be protected. By becoming part of your life, by making her a target, Claire stepped back. I can't risk Lily for this, no matter how much she stopped, the words catching in her throat. How much you what? Dante pressed. Nothing, it doesn't matter. But it did matter, because she'd almost said it, almost admitted that she was falling for him, that every moment together was making it harder to imagine leaving, that she was terrified of how much she wanted this impossible thing. 3 more days, she said instead, then we both go back to reality. She left before he could argue, before she could see the devastation on his face that matched her own. In her room, Claire pulled out her phone and looked at her bank account. The first payment had hit $25,000, half the agreed amount. Life-changing money, freedom money, money that meant Lily could have everything she needed. So why did it feel like blood money for selling her heart? The following day, Dante did something he hadn't done in 5 years. He canceled all his meetings. Tell them I'm unavailable, he instructed Victor, for the entire day. Boss, the Castellano meeting. Can wait, my children can't. When Claire emerged from her room, she found Dante already with the kids, attempting to make breakfast. Badly. I'm trying, he said, gesturing at the smoking pan, but apparently eggs hate me. Sophia giggled, Luca actually smiled, and Claire felt her carefully constructed walls cracking further. She helped him salvage breakfast, their hands brushing as they worked side by side. Every touch felt electric, dangerous. What should we do today? Dante asked the children. Zoo, Isabella shouted. Park, Nico countered. Lily raised her hand like she was in school. Can we do something normal families do? The question hung in the air, normal families, as if they were one. Like what, sweetheart? Claire asked. Like go to the playground and get ice cream and not have bodyguards following us. Claire and Dante exchanged a look. He nodded slowly. Okay. One normal day. 2 hours later, they were at a public playground in a modest neighborhood, far from Dante's usual world. He dressed down in jeans and a simple shirt. No security, no armor, just a man with his children. And Claire, who felt like she was watching him discover a life he'd never known existed. The children ran wild on the swings and slides, mixing with other kids without fear or reservation. Dante pushed Sophia on the swing, his expensive watch forgotten as she shrieked with joy. Luca showed him how to climb the monkey bars. Nico insisted Dante catch him at the bottom of the slide, over and over and over. Claire sat on a bench with Lily watching. Mommy, Lily said softly, do you like him? Claire's heart skipped. Who? Mr. Morty, the way you look at him. It's like how you look at me, like you love him. Lily, it's complicated. Do you love him? The direct question deserved an honest answer. I think I could, Claire admitted. quietly, but sometimes love isn't enough. Why not? Because we're from different worlds, baby, and his world is dangerous. Lily leaned against her mother. He doesn't seem dangerous. He seems lonely, like us. The observation cut deep because it was true. After the playground, they got ice cream from a street vendor. Dante had never eaten ice cream from a truck before. The children found this hilarious. They walked through the park, sticky-handed and laughing, looking like any other family on a Sunday afternoon. For a few hours, Dante wasn't a mafia boss and Claire wasn't a janitor. They were just two adults watching 5 children be happy. "This is nice," Dante said as they sat on the grass while the children played nearby. "I didn't know life could be this simple." "It's not always like this," Claire warned. "Most days are harder, laundry and tantrums and exhaustion." "I want those days too," he turned to her. "All of it, the mess, the chaos. The ordinary moments that aren't ordinary at all." Claire's throat tightened. "Dante, I know what you're going to say, but just for today, can we pretend that this is real, that we're a family, that we have more than 2 days left?" She should say no, should protect herself, should remember this was temporary. Instead, she nodded. For the rest of the afternoon, they played pretend. Dante held her hand as they walked. She leaned into his shoulder when they sat. They shared bites of each other's ice cream, laughed at the children's antics, talked about nothing and everything. It felt like hope. It felt like home. It felt like everything Claire had ever wanted and knew she couldn't keep. That evening, after the children were asleep, Dante found Claire on the terrace again. "Thank you," he said, "for today, for showing me what I've been missing." "You're welcome." He moved closer. "Claire, I need to tell you something." "Don't," her voice was barely a whisper. "Please don't say it." "Why not?" "Because once you say it, once we admit this is real, leaving becomes impossible. And I have to leave Dante, for Lily's safety, for my own sanity, for—" He kissed her. Soft, tentative, asking permission even as he took it. His hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek, and Claire felt every wall she'd built crumble to dust. She kissed him back, pouring everything she couldn't say into that moment. "I see you. I know you. I'm falling for you." When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "Tell me you don't feel this," he whispered. "Tell me I'm alone in this and I'll let you go." Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I can't tell you that." "Then don't leave." "I have to." "Why?" "Because fairy tales aren't real, Dante. Janitors don't end up with mafia bosses. Single mothers don't get happily ever after. We get survival and bills and reality." "What if I want to rewrite that story?" "You can't." She stepped back, breaking the contact. "Tomorrow is our last full day, then this ends. It has to." She fled inside before he could see her crying, before she could change her mind, before she could choose the fairy tale over her daughter's safety. Dante stood alone under the stars, tasting Claire on his lips and feeling his heart break for the first time in his adult life. He'd built an empire on control, on power, on never letting anyone matter enough to hurt him. But Claire had mattered from the first moment, and losing her was going to destroy him. The only question was, would he let her go, or would he fight for the impossible? Have you ever walked away from something real because you were afraid of getting hurt, or did you take the risk? What happened? Share below. The next morning shattered the fragile peace. Claire woke to shouting, Victor's voice, urgent and sharp, coming from Dante's office. She wrapped her robe tighter and moved down the hallway, stopping when she heard her name. "The liability, boss, both of them are. Your enemies know about the woman and her daughter now. There's already chatter." "Then we increase security," Dante said, his voice tight. "Security won't matter if they're targeted because of proximity to you. The Castellano family is looking for leverage. You've made yourself vulnerable." "I don't care." "You should care," Victor's voice rose. "This isn't just about you. It's about those kids in there who have already lost one parent. You want them to lose another. You want to watch Claire and her daughter get hurt because you couldn't keep your distance." Silence. Claire's hand flew to her mouth, her heart hammering. "How bad is the threat?" Dante finally asked. "Bad enough that I'm telling you to end this. Today, pay her, send her home, move on." "I can't do that." "Yes, you can. You've done it 100 times before. This is business, boss. Cut your losses before someone gets killed." Claire didn't wait to hear more. She turned and ran back to her room, her mind spinning. Someone gets killed. She'd known this was dangerous, known his world was violent, but hearing it spoken out loud, hearing that her presence put Lily at risk, made it devastatingly real. She started packing immediately, hands shaking as she threw clothes into her suitcase. "Mommy," Lily stirred in bed. "What's wrong?" "We're leaving, baby, right now." "But the kids." "Now, Lily's." 20 minutes later, bags packed, Claire walked into the kitchen where Dante sat with his head in his hands. He looked up when he heard her. "Claire." "I heard everything," she said, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. "And you're right, this was a mistake." "Don't do this." "I'm not risking my daughter because of some fantasy we've been living." She set the bags down. "Wire me the rest of the money. We're done." Dante stood. "If you leave now, you're running scared. That's not the woman I know." "You don't know me," the words exploded out of her. "You know the version of me that played house in your penthouse for a week, but the real me, I'm a woman who's barely surviving, who can't afford to take risks, who has to choose her daughter over everything else. Even over," she stopped, choking on the words. "Over what? Say it." "Over you," tears streamed down her face now. "Even over you. Even though you've made me feel things I swore I'd never feel again. Even though your children have become like my own. Even though every moment here has felt like the life I was supposed to have." "Then stay," Dante pleaded, moving toward her. "We'll figure it out. I'll protect you both." "You can't promise that. You can't control everything, Dante, no matter how powerful you are. And I won't wait around to see if your enemies decide my daughter is good leverage." The elevator chimed. Victor appeared. "Car's ready to take you home, Ms. Dawson." "No," Dante said sharply. "Victor, get out." "Boss, get out." Victor left, but the damage was done. Claire picked up her bags. Lily clung to her side, crying quietly. "Please," Dante said, and the word sounded like it was being torn from him. "Don't do this." "I have to," Claire's voice broke. "Goodbye, Dante." She moved toward the elevator, but Dante caught her arm. "What about the children? They'll be devastated." "They'll survive. Children always do. It's better they hurt now than—" "Than what? Than loving you." "Too late, Claire. They already do. I already do." The words hung between them, raw and honest, and far too late. "I'm sorry," Claire whispered. "I'm so sorry." She pulled free and stepped into the elevator with Lily. The last thing she saw before the doors closed was Dante's face, broken, devastated, the armor completely gone. The children found him 10 minutes later, sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. "Where's Claire?" Sophia asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit. "Where's Lily?" "They had to go home," Dante managed. "Are they coming back?" He couldn't answer, couldn't lie. Sophia's face crumpled. "No, you promised they'd stay." "I'm sorry, baby." "Everybody leaves," Luca screamed. "Mommy left, the nannies left, now Claire left. Why does everybody leave us?" "Because you made them," Isabella shouted at Dante, tears streaming. "You made Claire leave. I hate you." The children scattered, running to their rooms, slamming doors, their sobs echoing through the penthouse that had been full of life just hours ago. Dante sat alone in the wreckage, understanding for the first time what real loss felt like. He'd lost his children's trust. He'd lost the woman who'd taught him how to be human again. And he'd lost himself somewhere between control and surrender, between power and love, between the man he'd been and the man he'd almost become. Across the city, Claire sat in her tiny apartment, holding Lily while they both cried. "Why did we leave?" Lily sobbed. "They needed us." "I know, baby, I know." "Did you stop loving them?" The question destroyed her. "No, that's why we had to leave." Because love without safety wasn't enough. Love without a future was just beautiful pain. And Claire had spent her whole life learning that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was walk away before love destroyed you. Even if walking away destroyed you anyway. Her phone buzzed, a notification, $25,000 deposited, the final payment. She stared at the number that should have felt like salvation and felt only like blood money. The price of breaking 6 hearts, including her own. 3 days passed like an eternity. Dante's penthouse returned to the cold mausoleum it had been before Claire. The children were inconsolable. Sophia wouldn't eat. Luca broke things in silent rage. Isabella screamed at anyone who came near, and Nico stopped talking altogether. Dante hired another nanny. She's quit within 4 hours. He tried to comfort them himself, but they turned away from him. "You made her leave," Luca said coldly, "just like you made Mommy leave." "That's not." "Yes, it is. You make everyone leave because you don't know how to love people." The words cut deeper than any knife because they were true, or had been true, until Claire had shown him differently. On the third night, Dante sat in the playroom, surrounded by toys no one would touch, holding the stuffed dragon Lily had left behind, Mr. Pickles. Sophia found him there, tears staining her face. "I miss Claire, Daddy." "I know, baby, I miss her too." "Then why did you let her go?" "Because I was trying to keep her safe." "But she's not safe without us, and we're not safe without her." Sophia climbed into his lap, something she hadn't done in months. "You always say you're strong, Daddy, but letting her leave was scared, not strong." Out of the mouths of 4-year-olds. Dante held his daughter and finally let himself break, really break, tears he'd held back for years, since his own father had died, since his wife had abandoned them, since Claire had walked out that elevator, finally fell. "You're right," he whispered. "I was scared. I'm still scared." "Of what?" "Of not being enough for her, of my world hurting her, of losing hers." "But Daddy," Sophia said with the simple wisdom of a child, "you already lost her, so being scared didn't work." Across the city, Claire wasn't doing better. She'd returned to her cleaning jobs, her old routine, her small life, but everything felt gray now, colorless. Lily barely spoke, barely ate, just clutched Mr. Pickles. No, wait, she'd left Mr. Pickles at the penthouse. She clutched a different stuffed animal, one Sophia had given her. "So you remember us," the little girl had said. Every night, Lily asked the same question, "Can we go back?" And every night, Claire said no, hating herself a little more. She'd done the right thing, the safe thing, protected her daughter from a dangerous world. So why did it feel like she'd amputated part of her soul? On the third night, Mrs. Chen knocked on her door. "Claire, dear, you have a visitor." Claire opened the door, expecting a bill collector. Instead, Victor stood there, uncomfortable in his suit. "Ms. Dawson, may I speak with you?" Claire's heart hammered. "Is Dante?" "He's fine physically, the children are." Victor paused. "They're not fine, neither is he." "Why are you here?" "Because I was wrong." Victor's voice was gruff. "I told him to send you away. I thought I was protecting him, but I've watched that man survive wars, betrayals, assassination attempts. He survived all of it, but losing you," Victor shook his head, "that's destroying him." "It's for the best." "Is it? Because from where I stand, everyone's miserable. The kids are broken, the boss is a shell, and you," he gestured at her tear-stained face, "you don't look like someone who made the right choice. His world is dangerous." "Yes, but so is living without love." Victor pulled out an envelope. "He doesn't know I'm here. This is from me. Information about the threat. It was neutralized 2 days ago. Castellano made a deal. There's no danger anymore. There never really was. It was posturing, not an actual hit." Claire's hands trembled as she took the envelope. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve the truth, and because those kids deserve a mother who stays, and because Dante Morty deserves someone who sees past his power to the man underneath." Victor turned to leave, then paused. "He's at the penthouse, alone with the kids, been there for 3 days straight, trying to be what you taught him to be, failing because he's half a person without you, but trying." He left, and Claire stood in her doorway, the envelope burning in her hands. Lily appeared beside her. "Mommy, what does your heart say?" "Baby, it's not that simple." "Oh yes, it is." Lily looked up at her with ancient eyes. "You told me love is showing up even when it's scary, so show up, Mommy." Claire looked at her daughter, this brave, beautiful child who'd been through abandonment and poverty and every hard thing, and still believed in love. "What if I'm not enough for them?" Claire whispered. "What if you are?" Lily countered. "What if we both are?" Dante was reading a story to Sophia, badly, stumbling over words, but trying, when the elevator chimed. He didn't look up, probably Victor returning with dinner they wouldn't eat. Then he heard it, a voice that made his heart stop. "Once upon a time, there was a dragon who was very lonely." His head snapped up. Claire stood in the doorway, Lily beside her, both holding suitcases. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair was messy, and she'd never looked more beautiful. "Claire," his voice broke on her name. "I'm sorry I left," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was scared of your world, scared of not being enough, scared of getting hurt. But you know what's scarier? Living without you, watching Lily break without those kids, being half a person because I was too afraid to be whole." Dante stood slowly, afraid if he moved too fast she'd disappear. The threat. "Victor told me, but that's not why I'm here." She took a shaky breath. "I'm here because I love you. I love your children. I love the life we built in one impossible week. and I don't care about different worlds or what makes sense. I just care about us. Claire. Wait, let me finish. I don't need your money or your penthouse or your power. I just need you, the real you. The man who burns pancakes and pushes swings and reads bedtime stories even though he's terrible at voices. That's the man I love. Sophia gasped, "You love Daddy." Claire knelt down, meeting the little girl's eyes. "I love all of you, so much it scares me, but I'm done running from scary things." Although children exploded into motion, all four of them plus Lily swarming Claire, crying and laughing and holding on like they'd never let go. And Dante crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling Claire up into his arms, his forehead pressed to hers. "Say it again," he whispered. "I love you." Again. "I love you, Dante Morty, even though you're bossy and controlling and terrible at pancakes." He kissed her, stopping the words, pouring everything he felt into that moment. When they finally broke apart, 5 children were watching with huge grins. "Does this mean Claire's staying?" Luca asked carefully, afraid to hope. "If she'll have us," Dante said, his eyes never leaving Claire's face. "Forever," Claire whispered. "I'm staying forever." 6 months later. Claire stood in the penthouse kitchen, their kitchen now, making pancakes while chaos swirled around her. Sophia was singing off-key, Nico was explaining dinosaur facts to anyone who'd listen, Isabella was bossing Luca about tower building, and Lily was refereeing with the wisdom of an older sister. "You're burning them again," Dante said, sliding behind her, his arms wrapping around her waist. "Then help me instead of distracting me," she laughed, leaning into him. He kissed her neck. "I like distracting you, Mrs. Morty." Mrs. Morty, the name still felt surreal. They'd gotten married quietly last month, just family, no spectacle. Claire had worn a simple dress. Dante had cried when she walked toward him. The children had been their wedding party. "Daddy, you're being gross again," Isabella announced. "Get used to it," Dante called back, not letting Claire go. Life wasn't perfect. They still navigated 2 different worlds. Claire's old friends didn't quite know what to make of her new life, and Dante's associates had to adjust to a boss who left work at 5 p.m. for family dinner. The children still had hard days, moments when old wounds surfaced. But they were healing together. Victor called. Dante said the community center project is approved, fully funded. Claire turned in his arms. "Really? Really, your idea, a safe place for single parents to get childcare, job training, support. It's happening." Tears filled her eyes. She told Dante about her dream months ago to help other women like her, women who were invisible and struggling. He'd made it real. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll run it. Say you'll keep changing the world, one person at a time, like you changed me." She kissed him softly. "Deal." "You," 5 children chorused. They broke apart laughing, and Claire flipped the pancakes, perfectly golden this time. Later, after the chaos of breakfast and getting the kids ready for school, Claire found herself on the terrace. The city stretched below, vast and full of possibilities. Dante joined her, coffee in hand. "Regrets." "About what?" "This, us, trading your old life for mine." Claire thought about it honestly. Her apartment was gone, rented to someone else. Her cleaning jobs were a memory. She'd gone from invisible to visible, from surviving to thriving, from alone to surrounded by love. "Not a single one," she said. "You." "Only that I didn't find you sooner." He pulled her close. "You saved us, Claire, all of us." We saved each other, she corrected. From inside, they heard the children playing, real laughter, genuine joy. Sophia was teaching Lily a song. Luca was showing Nico how to build with blocks. Isabella was narrating everything like a documentary. This was what family sounded like. "Daddy, Mommy," Sophia called, "come play with us." Mommy, the children had started calling her that naturally, and each time it made Claire's heart full. "Coming, baby," she called back. Before they went inside, Dante caught her hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying, for believing we were worth the risk, for teaching me that love isn't weakness, it's the bravest thing we can do." Claire squeezed his hand. "You taught me something too." "What's that?" "That worthiness isn't measured by what we have or where we come from. It's measured by how we love." She smiled through happy tears. "And we love hard, don't we?" "The hardest," he agreed. They walked inside together, into the noise and mess and beautiful chaos of their imperfect, impossible, perfect life. 1 year later, the community center's grand opening was packed. Single mothers with their children, families needing support, volunteers ready to help. Claire stood at the podium, her family beside her, Dante, their 6 children. She'd officially adopted the Quadruplets, and Victor, who'd become Uncle Victor. "I was invisible once," Claire began, "working 3 jobs, raising my daughter alone, believing I wasn't enough. But someone saw me, not my circumstances, me, and that changed everything." She looked at Dante, who was watching her with the same intensity as always. "This center exists because love made the impossible possible, because a man who'd forgotten how to be soft learned to be vulnerable, because children who'd been abandoned learned to trust again, because a woman who'd been invisible learned she was worth seeing." Her voice grew stronger. "So to everyone who feels invisible, who's struggling, who thinks they're not enough, you are. You're worthy of love, of support, of second chances. And this place, this is where we prove it, together." The room erupted in applause. Later, as they walked home, yes, walked, because Dante had learned to love simple moments, Sophia held Claire's hand. "Mommy, tell us the story again." "Which story, baby?" "The one about the D's. Ragan, who was lonely, and the princess who saved him." Claire smiled, catching Dante's eye. "Once upon a time, there was a powerful man who'd forgotten how to love, and a brave woman who'd forgotten she was worth loving. They met in the most impossible way." "She was mopping floors," Luca interrupted. "And he had 4 wild children," Isabella added. "And nobody thought it would work," Nico chimed in. "But it did," Lily finished softly, "because they chose love over fear." "Exactly," Claire said, squeezing Dante's hand. "They chose love, and love chose them back." They walked home through the city lights, this impossible family that had been built from broken pie. And Claire realized something profound. Fairy tales were real. They just didn't look like the storybooks promised. They looked like burnt pancakes in messy kitchens, like mafia bosses who pushed swings, like janitors who became queens not through crowns but through courage. They looked like choosing to stay when living was easier. Like loving hard when the world said it was impossible. Like finding home in the most unlikely place, in each other's arms. And that was the most beautiful ending of all. What would you risk for the love of your life? What impossible thing would you choose if fear wasn't holding you back? Tell us your story. We're listening. Down.